Now we're live.
3, 2, 1. Hello, Internet. I'm Justin Freed. This is In 30, the Tech Podcast. We have a special guest today from the company called Shifty Jelly. They don't make any foodstuffs. It's all software, all zeros and ones. His name is Russell Ivanovich, goes by Rusty Shelf. Is that right, Russ?
Yeah, that's correct. And our software is delicious.
Oh, that's right. It tastes really, really good. And our standard guests, they're special in their own way. We have Haim Cohen of HaimTime.com, excuse me.
Hello.
And Paul Shapiro of PaulNShapiro.com.
Hey, everyone.
So, I.O. just ended. Haim was in California but didn't get to attend. And so he's going to live vicariously through Rusty, and I'm sure berate him for not, not upping the Haim Time ante the way Haim Time would have if he were present. So Haim, why don't you take it from here?
Well, Russell had this blog post recently that we'll link in the show notes that was talking about the differences between the two. And there's
between I/O and Worldwide Developers Conference. You're getting ahead of yourself, Haim, because you're so excited. Okay, all right.
And what the differences were, and I don't know how many people can say that they've gone to both. So to have someone on the show to say what the differences are is a pretty interesting thing because we all say, oh, there's a conference. You just see the keynote, but you see nothing that goes behind the scenes and how much fun it was or all the other stuff that is just never reported.
The strippers were better at I/O. Is that true, Rusty?
I've heard rumors that is the case. I can't confirm or deny.
So this was not a double crown year for you, though. You didn't attend both WWDC and I/O in the same year. You've attended WWDC in years past, and this year it was only I/O. Is that right?
Yeah, I know these are a $50 pair of headphones, guys, but I can't afford to attend both conferences in 1 year. So yeah, WWDC was last year, I/O was this year.
Okay, so it's an apples to Google comparison. It's not an apples to apples comparison. But that being said, I guess can we get the stuff that everyone thinks the kind of ivory tower elitist attitude of the Apple employees versus the more everyman, pragmatic leadings of the Google, the stuff that we all expect. Please confirm that for us. Please confirm our prejudices for us, Rusty.
That's what I'm here for. Yes, overall, the Apple developer representatives, I guess, are a lot more about evangelizing their technology and trying to tell stories about, hey, these guys are exclusively on our platform and isn't our platform amazing? Whereas the Google guys I met, and this is not representative, I haven't met every employee in Google, this might surprise you, but the ones I have met seem a lot more, kind of friendly and open. Hey, you guys are on iOS, that's fine, but, they're doing this cool stuff on Android as well, and I guess they were highlighting some of the Android stuff that we're doing, which is cool.
So is that because of the taskmasters behind the scene? The Apple people have cattle prods or something, and the Google people, I don't know, they just don't.
I don't know, to be honest, and I don't know if this is changing over time, and a lot of this might just be because we're in Australia and we're a little bit sort of isolated. Google actually has an office here in Sydney. Apple has no presence whatsoever except for, I guess, one developer representative and a few store people. So it could be just the fact that we're so isolated, or it could be a high-level thing that Apple just prefers to tell the story that, our platform is the best, and Google prefers to tell like a different story. Our platform is everywhere and good developers are on it.
Okay, so Hi, and Paul, you jump back in here. I took over making sure that we got the obvious stuff out of the way. So
my question is, who was the performer at I/O Wednesday night?
That is a good question. This time around, they got some local bands, some I've never heard of. So they had two different sort of bands there, and they were good. I don't know. I have no idea who they are. I may have drank too much of your fancy American craft beer.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I don't know how much Budweiser is considered American at this point. But what about? And then the next question comes from: were you scared with all the Google Glass people there?
Look, I'm not a fan of Google Glass. I don't have a problem if people want to wear it. I'm not going to punch them in the face or anything. But it was weird to see such a concentration of glass all in the one spot. So as I was standing in line for the keynote, I reckon I counted at least 20 or 30 pairs of glasses. The funniest part was seeing some people actually charging them, because I guess these things don't last, more than 4 hours or whatever. So there's people with USB cables sort of coming out of their heads and into their pockets and stuff. But hey, Technology is cool, yeah?
My glass, coincidentally, on the way home, did break. So
Really?
I got the RMA number, and the reason I say coincidentally is they put in an article last week that said we're upping the hardware specs and the battery life on the new glass, but we're not giving it to all of the old people.
And
So
you're like, oh, I see, snap.
yeah, that's not what actually happened, but it's a known bug where this piece of foil on the front that's critical to the operation bubbled up, and it's happened to me once before. So I called them up. They said no problem. Take us a couple pictures, send it back, and I'm hoping to get my new glass. I don't know, in a couple days.
Hi, we know you're excited, but please stop banging on the table. I hear thumping all the way over here in my room, so far away from you. Okay, so aside from the fact that Google Glass proliferated throughout the conference, did you feel that as a developer coming out of I/O, the advice that you got and the support that you got was more actionable than at Worldwide Developers Conference? Did Google like they seem like they have so many more people to support? Frankly, did you come home getting the feeling that, wow, I want to stick on Android, and I want to be a Google Play Store favorite?
I have to say, coming out of both conferences is exciting as a developer. Like I primarily develop on iOS, and I do some Android development as well. And both conferences were insanely exciting to kind of leave with all this like new tech kind of buzzing around in your head and sort of new possibilities and stuff. I guess the main difference is leaving a Google conference, I actually have Google people that I can contact and ask questions of and do that sort of thing. You do get a little bit of that if you attend WWDC. You can email some of the presenters and that sort of thing. But these are two guys we have here in Australia that I can just hang out with or call or email or whatever. And the responses tend to be a lot quicker from those guys. But it would be unfair to say that Apple is completely unresponsive. Like if you attend WWDC, the presenters do give out their email addresses, and there are ways to get in contact with them as well. I'll say the massive difference at I/O this year is everything seems to be unified on Android. So you got Android on your TV, you got Android on your car, you got Android on your watch, you've got Android on your tablet, you've got Android on your Chromebook maybe someday soon as well, as well as your phone. Suddenly, I've never seen that from Google. They finally seem to have decided to go all in on one platform. I guess as a developer who makes native apps, I was a bit scared that when Sundar Pichai kind of became the head of Chrome and Android, that Chrome was going to kind of take over and leave Android in the dust. But it seems to have gone the other way, which I don't know. Perhaps I'm a bit selfish, but I'm really happy about that.
See, as a lay person, as someone who doesn't develop for the platform, but who of course uses it just like anybody else, I've been gunning for a time when Android and Chrome melded into one. I guess it would be Android taking over Chrome, and it seems like that could very well be the direction that they're going, and the Chrome browser itself could effectively be an operating system within an operating system. But putting that aside, and considering that you develop native apps, when you looked at Material, Google's new design language, did it work across all those devices, and did it give you a sense, a path, at least like incipiently, of how to take Pocket Casts, your flagship software, and put it on the TV and put it on a watch, kind of following the tune that Google played for you at I/O?
Yeah, I guess the short answer is yes. Like it seems like the perfect design language to go across all those platforms. But I guess there's a lot of intricacies there. It's like if we were to make a desktop version that runs with a keyboard and mouse, like things would obviously change. Like not everything stays the same when you don't have sort of touch involved. And the same with the TV. It's a similar sort of interface, but everything has to be, lean back, kind of 15, 20-foot experience type thing. So it's not about making your app look the same everywhere, but I guess it is about using the same design language across all of them. And it seems, I'm not a designer, so I can't speak 100% for this, but it seems pretty solid. Like I prefer it to what Apple did with iOS 7. Like I felt like they almost went a bit too far, where like everything is completely flat and here's some transparency. I kind of prefer Google's take on the same thing, whereas here's a much cleaner design, but things still have shadows. Things are still at different depths, and this is how we kind of indicate depth. And the whole when I touch something, it should respond. I'm a big fan of that as well.
It seems like the thing that Google kind of where they leapfrogged Apple was in the transitions and the animations. Not that they're not that of course that's built into Xcode and iOS does it, but that they really focused on the transitions as giving and also the responsiveness of to touch of giving the user a sense of where they are.
I'm a little concerned only because Android has that lagging issue. I mean, Justin talks about it so much, where it just doesn't transition right. And I'm hoping that these transitions don't take a huge CPU cycle to the point that you have to be scared that an older device will have problems running.
Just what I'm referring to is could be even a hardware issue on the Android phones that I've used, or some wacky thing that Google had to do to get around patents that Apple has, where it doesn't track your finger as well, and of course on an iOS device it actually, in order to account for the perceived vantage point of the user, it even changes how it tracks the finger. So I don't know what it is, but yeah, it's wacky on Android. Paul,
they kept saying that it runs flawlessly. They even brought it to the web. There's some sort of web-based interface. So I mean, old hardware is always going to have an issue with new software. There's not much you can do about that, but I don't think, from what they said, there's going to be any issues of that sort.
Yeah, I don't think Google. Sorry, what's the buzzword?
Was that the buzzword? Was flawless? Was that the one that the Google marketing department came out with? This is flawless.
No, I don't remember seeing that. And I mean, the other thing is to remember is none of these people work magic. So if you want, grab an iPhone 4 and try and run iOS 7 on it, and be prepared to wait for every single tap to register. And I'm sure the same is going to be true when you put L on some of the old Android devices. But I guess the thing that we're excited about is going forward. It seems like they finally addressed that whole transition and 60 frames per second and animations. Something Android has always struggled at, to be fair, because I think a lot of it's kind of been CPU rendered, and they've always had this issue where it's trying to render every single view even if it can't see it, and I think they might have finally fixed that, thank God. Something Apple addressed in iOS 3, I think.
That's interesting, and I didn't know that was... I thought that was so fundamental to GUI development nowadays that I didn't know that Android was playing catch-up in that area. And I know that even in Mavericks, Apple kind of pushed the envelope with that concept that it even, if you cover a Flash element in Mavericks, it won't render the Flash element while it's covered by another UI element, stuff like that. But I didn't. You've struggled with that then as an Android developer, or trying to.
So up until basically L version of Android, if you put a background behind the table view, even if you can't see that background, it's still rendering it constantly. So that's number one tip when you're developing a list view, is don't put a background behind it, because as soon as you start scrolling, as it scrolls the text over the top, it's going to keep trying rendering the background, even if your cell is completely opaque, which sounds ridiculous, but I guess it must be a hard problem to solve, because even Apple had to spend the time in iOS to fix that a few releases back. So I'm glad they finally addressed that. We haven't had a huge chance to play with it and see what the performance is like, and I guess it's still a preview, but if they have fixed that, that's really exciting. It'll let us as developers, do things that we're, I guess, a bit scared of doing before.
So, I mean, I'm not super familiar with Xcode, but what does the IDE for Android look like? How does it compare to Xcode? And I guess was there progress there at I/O?
Yeah, there was. So about a year ago, I want to say, Google transitioned to something they call Android Studio, which is basically they took one of the best sort of IDEs that was out there for Java. I don't know if they did some deal with the guys or what, but they kind of made it their own, and it started at version 0.1, and I think after I/O it's at 0.8. So it's still not finished, but yeah, it is way better than Eclipse and NetBeans, but it's still not quite up there to Xcode quality. I guess feature-wise, they're one for one. But just the build quality and the way you kind of navigate around and the speed, it's still Xcode is kind of killing it there. But at least they're working on it. That's the main thing. 2 years ago, you looked at it, you had to use Eclipse to kind of develop on, which is the worst software in the world if you've ever used it. And just to see the Android team kind of plug into that kind of made me sad. It's well, don't these guys care about their development environment enough to build their own? And now they seem to be. So they're actively, developing their own thing, which is good. In a few years' time, hopefully they kind of reach parity.
You just offended a whole bunch of Java developers by saying Eclipse is awful.
I think
Netbeans forever.
I think if you read if you read the Eclipse forums, I mean, if you can get that
No,
impression.
he's not wrong. I mean, we had a problem at the beginning of the year running Eclipse, and I told people to go to Android Studio, and when they IntelliJ, and when they went, which is Android Studio, when they went to IntelliJ, I'm looking at it and say, why isn't Eclipse looking either this pretty, or why haven't we moved off of it? The Community Edition is free. It does 90% of what you need, and if you want more, you unfortunately got to pay for it, but it works out well.
I think it ends up being Stockholm syndrome. Like, I was a Java developer who worked with Eclipse for 5 years, and you're kind of trapped by it for so long that you start to feel like an affinity for it. You're like, well, at least I know where the buttons are, and at least I know what to press. And sure, I may have to refresh every time I change something on the frickin' file system, but that's how it works, and it's cool.
That's right.
So those days are gone. You can change something on the file system, and boom, it appears in your IDE. It's a revolution.
Yeah, so if Patty Hearst were to choose a development environment, she would definitely choose Eclipse. Okay, so what? There's two segues I kind of want to make.
Well, I want to ask his other issue. I mean, you may be talking about this, but lay people who run beta software I wanted to go into the next topic, but I don't know what Justin had planned.
Well, first we have to make sure that everyone is on 10.9.4 of Mavericks. I just want to just to verify that everyone's updated.
I am not.
Paul?
10.9.2.
Oh wow, Paul, you are lagging behind. You are such a rebel, you. Okay, and
I'm on 0.3 just to be different.
Okay, all right,
I'm on 0.3.
And that Mac Pro behind you that belongs to Philip, where you guys got it, you've got to update that then. And then the question, before we even get into the beta software thing, I just wanted to delve a little bit into the podcast directory that you guys built, and just if you would remind me, what is the domain name for it? What's it that you guys are using?
You mean where we host all our links and stuff?
Yeah, exactly. Because it seems like the domain itself doesn't give you a searchable index of the podcasts, but I guess each podcast itself has a link at the domain. Is that right?
Yeah. So the links you kind of dynamically generate, and we can generate sort of ones with names. So I think we used to have that at pcasts.in/basically podcast name, and now we've actually got a new one we're kind of excited about. I think it's pca.st. So even sure.
That's cool.
Boom. That's cool, but we have all these plans for it. It's funny, it runs on something called our social server, which does nothing social whatsoever. But I guess we've always had plans to expand that out.
See, that was my question, I guess. How does that and developing for the web dovetail with your native app development on iOS and Android? I mean, it's a totally different ballgame, I suppose, but in Pocket Casts, one of the core functionalities is the server-side stuff that you do in caching the podcast. So how do you make those things coalesce into a single product? It's only a couple of guys over there in Sydney that are doing this, right? You, the guy behind you, the other guy that I see walking past sometimes, right?
So yeah, we're as a team of just 2 developers. We have for years have had like big plans for Pocket Cast about all these different things we want to do, and wouldn't it be cool if it did this, and wouldn't it be cool if it did that? But we always butt up against the realities of there's only so much 2 people can do, and especially when it comes to the web, if you want to make anything free, or you want to kind of you want something to take off massively, that starts to introduce like huge overheads that a company like ours probably can't even pay for. So I guess we've done a very gradual sort of rollout. We started with the iOS app, then we introduced an Android app. Later this year maybe there'll be apps for other sort of platforms. But it's a very gradual sort of thing to say, yeah, we're here, and that all ties back into the same back-end server that does all your podcast updating and kind of syncing it across devices. And we'd love to take that even further again, but we've always done it really slowly because we're aware of the fact that if we ever build anything that's used by 30 million people at the same time, we're just going to be sitting here just like building servers all day basically.
Google bought Songza. Who knows? That guy.
If you're watching Google, we're here. Google Podcasts. Let's do it.
Well, I mean, you do have the announcement. You are a partner in Android Auto.
Yeah, our app was one of the launch apps. That was really cool.
That's cool.
Did you know that?
No, we worked with them a few months ahead of time, so we obviously knew there was a chance. But they were very careful to say, no promises. This could appear somewhere. This could appear nowhere. Just if you want to work with us, you can, but you don't have to. And we're like, why wouldn't we? This is like, the opportunity of a lifetime. Let's do it.
And what's you
And then,
Philip
so
try?
Philip and I are sitting there in the keynote, and we're like, come on, we see the car on the stage, and we're like, come on, Pocket Cast. And then you see our little logo come up in the keynote.
And
We're
you,
like,
and Philip both drive Teslas, is that right?
one
No?
day.
Okay.
No.
So, but they didn't give you a free car or anything in order to kind of test out
Well,
the.
They had an Audi on the 3rd floor with our app installed in it, and I kept trying to drive it out, but the guy was giving me.
That will not fit in the overhead luggage compartment either on the way back to Sydney.
Let's ask this: are we going to get Pocket Cast on Android Wear?
Oh, I've already got Pocket Cast on Android Wear.
Oh, so there you go.
Someone's got it. That's a foregone conclusion. Come on.
So
Tom.
I guess there's two different ways, isn't there? There's the notification integration, which actually already works. So you can already play and pause and skip Pocket Cast from Android Wear. And then there's the next level after that is, can we think of cooler things than just that to do? And who knows? Maybe.
Double speed on the Chromecast. Double playback speed on the Chromecast. That's what I want.
I think that one you have to petition Google for. I'm not sure if they support it. I have to have a look.
Well, you could in browser or something render it at 2 times speed and then push that out to Chromecast, right? Oh no,
yeah,
I guess
Chromecast is a weird one because by default everything actually runs off the Chromecast. So even if you've downloaded a podcast, when you push it out to your Chromecast,
That's what I
the
figured.
Chromecast does all the Google message.
So
you can
do that
local
server
streaming.
side.
We played around with actually streaming it off your phone, but that leads you sort of down a fun path of all sorts of other problems.
All right, so you want to diverge then into beta software, which I did not see
tweet.
in this.
No,
it was a tweet. Okay.
It was a tweet that someone over there said how they dislike the people who think that they should run beta software before it's beta. It's beta for a reason. Justin, we're talking about you.
Me? I don't remember posting that. That's a lie. I have to go and delete it now so that no one sees it. No, I have this. I don't have any issue at all with people installing beta software. If you're super excited, by all means go and install it. But the issue I have is when you come back to the developer and you're like, oh, it's broken. You guys should have seen this coming. It's like, we get the beta at exactly the same time you do, guys. Like, we don't get it any earlier. You can't expect to install the beta on day one and everything works. Otherwise, it would be the actual shipping software. What would be the point of having 3 months worth of betas if it was perfect on day one? So if you install it and you're perfectly happy for your apps to crash and delete your data and kill your mum and that sort of thing, that's cool. I'm cool with that. But if you install it and expect a perfect experience and then start emailing me about how your experience isn't perfect and that's somehow my fault, I'm not going to be able to help you as much.
So instead of calling it beta software, we should call it kick you in the balls software. And then the install base will decrease precipitously, I expect.
Well, they called it a developer preview, as in it didn't say beta, so someone can check that it works.
I don't know. Developer preview seems almost more enticing, because if people fancy themselves as a developer, it makes sense then that they would want to try it out.
I should obviously install this because I'm clearly a developer over here.
Exactly. Exactly. Where are we on time, Time?
We have 7 minutes.
Okay, and what device, by the way, are you using to check the time, Heim?
Piezo, because it just seems to work.
Okay, all right. So let's talk about the swag. So the swag at WWDC at best is maybe the sweat from Tim Cook's hand.
No. You're being unfair there, man. They give you a jacket and then they let you buy whatever you want from the company store at full price.
That's very kind of them, indeed. So California sales taxes at work. Okay, they're very generous.
Well, it's like the water. Just think, when you're on the Apple line, you get the Apple water.
Right. Yes.
Yeah, that is true, and they do give out some weird American juice and some packed lunches and muffins. So let's be generous.
Well, I wonder what constitutes American juice. All of our juice.
I've never seen this stuff before. It comes in really weird sort of packages and kind of looks like yogurt. Do you guys have yogurt? Is that a thing?
Capri Sun.
Was it silver and shiny?
Yeah, the one I had was pink and had bits in it, and it kind of wasn't juice. I don't know.
That's interesting. Okay. Right. If it's not in a Foster's bottle, then you just don't want it. Is what it comes down to.
You guys do realize we export Foster's for a reason. None of us drink that stuff.
Okay, all right. So their marketing campaign is brilliant then, because I all right. So what did you get at I/O this year?
So first of all we got that 3D piece of cardboard. You can't let that one go. Which is, all joking aside, when they said it in the keynote, I'm like, cardboard. What? Where am I? Like, have I walked into some like weird like homeless convention or something? But it's really cool. You fold it up into this VR headset. You stick it on your face, and you can kind of do the 3D Street View. Have you guys played with this?
I haven't. So there's a little
I've heard about
magnetic.
it, but-
There's a little magnetic latch on the side, which just amounts to something that I guess activates the accelerometer in the phone to indicate like a touch. Is that right?
Yeah, so it actually changes the magnetic field, and because the phone has a magnometer, built in, it actually detects that and takes that as like a touch. But the thing never touches your phone.
I got
really
you.
cool.
So it does it through like the compass software, effectively through the magnetometer. Okay. And
Yeah,
then
so it's like a cheap man's Oculus Rift, I guess. So
And
you can
then
have the
what-
Oculus Rift for $1,000, or you can have that for like $0.
Mark Zuckerberg will make sure that everyone has one of those in their home for free. I think that's the idea there. But what constitutes the lenses? Are those just things you can pick up at Home Depot at like a hardware store?
Can you throw me that thing, Monica? That's up there. Sorry, I've got one actually here. You guys, this is an audio podcast, is it not?
It's
Mainly.
It is mainly an audio podcast, so I have to
So,
describe.
apologies to the audio listeners, but I'm holding up a cardboard box that has two lens sort of things in there. And then there's a Velcro bit where you actually stick your phone in, and your phone sort of hits that, and the NFC triggers and actually launches their app. And there's a few different things. So you can play with, you can fly around in Google Earth, you can kind of drive around in Street View, you can play that weird Motorola mouse catching the hat video and kind of chase the mouse around. So there's that. There's the watch
Does it
I'm wearing.
work with
obviously.
iOS? Does it work with an iPhone? Can you stick an iPhone in there?
You can. Not a lot happens when you do, and also the iPhone's so small that it just falls out. But anyway.
Okay, so so basically you got cardboard packaging around the watch, certainly, right?
Yeah, definitely. So they gave us the choice of the LG watch. I don't know if it has a different name to that, and the Samsung Gear Live. And talking to the Google guys who are already wearing it, they're like, yeah, these are pretty much the same. Just choose the one that you like the look of best. So I went for the Samsung for no reason except that it looked slightly better and it had a heart rate monitor, so more cool toys to play with, I guess. So that was very cool. I sat in the Android TV session, and so everyone that was in there, they gave them an ADT1, basically their Google TV developer preview thing. So I got one of those. Sorry.
No, I know that Haim is he's dying to tell you about his Nexus Q, but I am going to advise him not to do that.
I love my Nexus Q.
This was
Why do we have Pocket
missed
Cast
out
on
on
the
that.
Nexus Q? I mean,
okay. So you got an ADT1, the cardboard thing, and a watch, and then was there something else in addition to that?
Yeah, so later this year you get the Moto 360 watch as well.
Okay, interesting. All right, so you could
And
potentially.
then I think there was a drink bottle and a T-shirt as well, but I don't really count those things.
Okay, right, exactly. And
but
that's
I
about
do.
it.
Those are the best. Like I got an Android figurine filled with jelly beans. I mean, that was phenomenal. I got all
pretty
four. When you go to lunch, you have to get the stuff on the table before everyone else does.
Yes.
It's like lining your purse with aluminum foil and then sticking all the mashed potatoes in there so you can go home with it.
When Haim's son was born, one of the first things that he did was make sure that in Haim's will, he bequeathed that Android jelly bean holder his firstborn, right, Haim?
Here's his Nexus.
Okay.
He has his Galaxy Nexus right here.
So he's going to get that. Did you find that walking around I/O? I mean, I guess you had a name tag on that indicated that you are a shifty jelly guy and you make pocket casts. Were you a superstar of sorts? Did you get treatment in that vein, and is that different than how things went down at WWDC?
Well, that was the funny thing, because I think people know Pocket Cast, but no one has a clue who Shifty Jelly are, and my badge said Shifty Jelly. And people are like, oh, that's interesting. Like, what do you guys do? And I'm like, oh, we make Pocket Cast. And they're like, Pocket Cast. And then they'd kind of flip over around their phone. They're like, this thing on the home screen? And I'm like, yeah, that's our app. And they're like, oh, that's so cool, man. Like, I've got your app. I love it. So that was kind of cool to actually meet people. I think almost the entire developer conference had our app installed, which is
That must be a good feeling.
yeah. And the coolest thing is all the Google guys I met had it as well. So like, yeah, Pocket Cast, like here it is on my home screen. How cool is that?
Just be aware, Marco Arment has Overcast coming out eventually.
I met him at WWDC last year. and we discussed the whole Overcast thing. Back then, it was shipping in July of 2013, I think.
Yeah, it's now shipping July. Never.
I have a feeling it'll be out later this year.
Yeah,
And I'm sure it'll
probably.
be. Marco makes good stuff. It'll
That's
never be
true.
on Android though, so take that.
That's true. And are you worried? Okay, what conference will be your destination for next year?
I have no idea because they're doing this whole lottery thing now. So you apply it to the lottery and you get a ticket or you don't, and you feel a bit silly, especially for me. Like flying to San Francisco is like an 18-hour ordeal at many thousands of dollars. It's like if you don't have a ticket, there's probably not a lot of point in getting on a plane. So I may be going nowhere. If they're back to back, I may even try and be crazy and go to both. Who knows?
But
Basically, wherever it will take me.
is I think you alluded.
We got to wrap up.
Where are we at on time? There's
We're
one more-
over.
We're over. Oh,
Yeah.
that seldom happens. Okay, then we must cease. All
Can't rename
right.
it to In40.
That's right. In 30 and a half. Okay, this has been In 30, some episode number. Thank you, Mr. Rusty from Sydney, Australia. Good night and good luck.
Bye, everybody.